In a previous video, Eleanor Shakiba explained that conflict coaching is a process to help employees shift their thinking and behaviour. Today, I'm going to be talking to her about a situation that's more complicated. So Eleanor, imagine an HR business partner is working with a valued employee who's being impacted by team conflict. So the employee actually reveals to you that they're thinking of leaving the business as a result of this team conflict. What would an HR practitioner do in this situation, and do you have like a specific example that you can share with us about that?
Yes. It can be a really tough situation to be in, and it does happen quite a lot. So there's a couple of things you need to do. So the first thing is just check, is there a risk to the business? Is there the potential that this person is going to make a claim of bullying or harassment, and does a formal grievance process need to start, or an investigation? Right. If the answer to that is no, then obviously what we want to do is help the employee to think through logically what they're going to do next, and preferably to be guiding them towards wanting to find a solution of being able to stay and to continue to contribute to the business. So recently I was coaching someone in exactly that situation, and she was in conflict with her boss, and the situation had been going on for about 6 months, and she was at a stage where she was ready to pack up her bags and leave. Right. And so my job there was to act in a neutral and unbiased way, but to help her look at the situation logically and work through, would that be the best option for her, or was there other alternatives that she hadn't thought of yet? And so that's what we're really trying to do. We're trying to get them to restructure their thinking around the particular situation.
Are there any specific tools that an HR practitioner can use in this circumstance?
Yes, so what we could do is help the person shift their time perspective. What we mean by that is stop focusing on the past and all the history and how many times the boss has given me negative feedback, and get them to think about, has there ever been any times when things were successful or could be successful, and how can we make more success in the future? Secondly, we can get them to scale their experience. So basically, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is the impact that you are experiencing from this conflict? Initially, people will say, oh, it's a 10, it's disastrous, it's causing me lots of anxiety. But if you put that in perspective and say, well, think about the worst situation you've ever been through at work, and where did that rate? Okay, so that was about a 9. So if we compare that to the current experience with your boss, what are you thinking about that now? Oh, it's probably a 6. Maybe it's more bearable than I thought. Right. And already we've started the next step, which is helping the person to think through logically, what's the decisions and how can I be in control of my own decisions here?
Fantastic. So in the example that you shared with us, how did that play out with the woman that you were working with?
So we did a lot of work around how she was feeling about the situation, and the scaling questions were really important for her. So she needed to reduce the level of impact that she was giving or creating for the situation. So I asked her lots of questions around, if we put this into perspective and you look back at it from 10 years in the future and you're now a senior manager, what are you thinking about the situation? On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is it? So what I was doing there was actually combining the shift in time orientation with the scaling question, and asking her to imagine you're a new, more resourceful person looking back from the future at this current situation. How do you think about it now? And she started to realise that it wasn't as bad as she thought. She was still concerned about the situation, and she still wanted to be able to make some changes. So she had made up her mind. She didn't want to work for this boss anymore. So now we needed to say, okay, is the only option to leave the organisation altogether? What other options might you have here?
Okay, great. So you kind of reframed that for her, that she had a positive outlook on the situation, and then that gave her options of what to do next.
Yes. And so she started thinking about, well, she'd been in her role for about 4 years now. Maybe it was time for her to start developing her skills and looking at maybe getting a promotion herself, moving to a new part of the business. And it took 6 months, but that's the end result that we got, that she stayed for that 6 months. She deliberately and consciously developed her skills, and she moved to another part of the business. So she no longer had to work with the person she was in conflict with, but we got a good result for everyone all round.
Fantastic. Eleanor, so where can people go to find more about these techniques that you've shared with us today?
Well, on my website, there's a lot of resources. So there is a free ebook called Crunchpoint Conversations that is specifically for HR practitioners, and you can download that at any time. And there are also some videos on how to do cognitive reframing and how to ask solution-focused questions.
Thanks so much, Eleanor. It's great to know where to go to get some practical advice around these techniques that you shared with us today. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you next month. What's the topic?
So next month we're going to be looking at how to help employees draw a boundary between the personal and the professional.